The stars outside the window looked different here. Kim Tae-ho stood near the observation deck of the human ship Horizon and watched the alien world grow larger. The planet was purple and gold, covered in massive cities that glowed even in daylight. This was Kethar Prime, home of the most powerful empire in the known galaxy. Tae-ho was not a diplomat, he was a soldier. His job was simple: protect the people who did the talking. But he knew why this mission mattered. Earth was dying. A wave of cosmic radiation was moving toward their solar system, and humans did not have the technology to escape. The Cathari did. They had jump gates that could move entire populations across the galaxy in seconds. The problem was that the Cathari did not like humans. "You look tense," said a voice behind him. Tae-ho turned to see Park Yuna walking toward him. She was a scientist, small and thin, with glasses that were always sliding down her nose. She had been his friend since their training days on Earth. "I am always tense," Tae-ho said. Yuna laughed softly. "That is true, but today you look extra tense." "Today we meet beings who think we are insects," Tae-ho replied. "I think that is a good reason." The Cathari were tall and beautiful. Their skin was pale blue, their eyes were silver, and they lived for over 500 years. They had conquered dozens of star systems. To them, humans were nothing, a young species from a small planet. Weak, fragile, unimportant. But humans needed their help, so humans had to be polite. Commander Jang Subin's voice came through the ship's speakers. "All delegation members report to the landing bay. We arrive in 30 minutes." Tae-ho took one last look at the alien world. Then he went to do his job. The landing bay was busy with activity. Ambassador Choi Hana stood at the center, checking her notes on a datapad. She was an older woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had spent her whole life preparing for moments like this. "Tae-ho," she said when she saw him, "stay close to me today. The Cathari respect strength, but they also look for any excuse to insult us. Do not give them one." "Understood," Tae-ho said. Commander Yang Subin walked over. She was tall for a human woman, with short black hair and a scar across her chin from an old battle. She had trained Tae-ho herself years ago. "Remember," she said quietly, "we are here to smile and bow, nothing more." No matter what they say, Tae-ho nodded. He understood. But he also knew that some things were easier to say than to do. The shuttle carried them down to the planet's surface. The Cathari capital city was enormous. Buildings rose into the clouds covered in gold and crystal. Flying vehicles moved through the air like rivers of light. Everything was beautiful and cold. Armed guards met them at the landing platform. The Cathari soldiers were tall, over 2 meters each, wearing armor that looked like liquid silver. They did not speak. They simply gestured for the humans to follow. The walk to the Imperial Palace took almost an hour. Tae-ho suspected this was intentional. The Cathari wanted the humans to see their power, to feel small. It was working. The palace was the largest building Tae-ho had ever seen. It could have held 100 human cities inside. The doors alone were 50 meters tall, carved with images of Cathari warriors conquering alien worlds. Inside, the throne room waited. Princess Valari sat on a raised platform at the far end of the room. She was young by Cathari standards, perhaps 150 years old, which made her look like a human woman in her mid-20s. Her skin was darker blue than most Cathari, and her silver eyes held a sharp intelligence. Her white hair fell past her shoulders like water. She was beautiful. She was also clearly bored. Hundreds of Cathari nobles filled the room, all watching the humans with expressions ranging from curiosity to open disgust. Whispers followed the delegation as they walked toward the throne. "So small," someone said. "Are those their soldiers?" "They look like children." "I heard they only live for 80 years, like insects." Tae-ho kept his face calm. He had heard worse. Ambassador Choi Hana stopped before the princess and bowed deeply. "Your Imperial Highness," she said, "on behalf of Earth and all humanity, I thank you for receiving us." Princess Valari looked at her for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Humanity," she said. "Yes, I have read about your species. You discovered fire only a few thousand years ago, is that correct? And now you come to us, asking for help, because you cannot save yourselves. The nobles laughed. Ambassador Choi kept her composure. We come offering friendship and partnership. Our scientists have made discoveries that might interest your empire. We wish to trade knowledge for... Knowledge? Vilari interrupted. What could humans possibly teach us? The laughter grew louder. Tae-ho felt his hands forming fists at his sides. He forced them to relax. A feast followed the formal greeting. The humans were given a small table in a corner, away from the important guests. The food was strange, and the wine was too strong. But Ambassador Choi smiled and played the game, speaking to any noble who would listen. Tai-ho stood behind her, watching the room. That was when Princess Valari approached. She moved like smoke, appearing beside their table without warning. Her silver eyes found Tai-ho immediately. You, she said. You are a soldier? Tai-ho bowed his head. I am, Your Highness. Valari circled him slowly, like a predator examining prey. You are larger than the others. Stronger, perhaps, by human standards. She laughed. But still so fragile. I wonder, do humans even know how to fight? Real fighting, I mean, not the games children play. We know how to fight, Tai-ho said quietly. The room grew silent. Everyone was watching now. Valari's smile widened. Is that so? She turned to address the entire hall. Then let us make this interesting. She looked back at Tai-ho, her eyes shining with amusement. Beat my champion in combat, human. If you win, I will personally guarantee your alliance. I will give your people everything they need. I will even offer myself as a bride to seal the partnership. Gasps filled the room. Ambassador Choi stepped forward. Your Highness, this is not... And if you lose, Valari continued, ignoring her, your delegation leaves Cathar Prime forever. No alliance, no technology. Your planet dies. Commander Jang grabbed Tai-ho's arm. Do not, she whispered fiercely. But Tai-ho was looking at the princess. He thought about Earth. He thought about his sister, who had died because they did not have the medicine to save her. He thought about all the people who would die if this mission failed. He stepped forward. I accept. Princess Valari's smirk grew wider. She had no idea what she had just started. The news spread across the Cathari Empire like fire. Every screen, every broadcast, every conversation was about the same thing. A human had accepted the princess's challenge. A small, weak, short-lived creature from a dying planet thought he could defeat the greatest warrior in the galaxy. The Cathari thought it was the funniest thing they had ever heard. Back on the human ship Horizon, the mood was very different. Commander Yang Subin was furious. She stood in the meeting room, her face red with anger, staring at Tai-ho like she wanted to throw him out the airlock. What were you thinking? She shouted. You just destroyed everything. Years of preparation gone. Because you could not control your pride. Tai-ho stood at attention, taking her words without complaint. He knew she was right to be angry. He also knew he would make the same choice again. Ambassador Choi Hana sat at the table, her head in her hands. The princess played us perfectly, she said quietly. She never intended to negotiate. She wanted a show, entertainment, and now she has it. Can we refuse? Asked Park Yuna. Say that Tai-ho spoke without authority? No, the ambassador replied. If we back down now, we prove everything they believe about us, that we are weak, that we are cowards. No one in this galaxy will ever respect humanity again. The room fell silent. Tai-ho finally spoke. Then I will win. Commander Jang laughed bitterly. Win? Do you even know who you are fighting? She activated a screen on the wall. An image appeared. It showed a massive Cathari warrior covered in scars. His arms were as thick as tree trunks. His eyes were cold and dead. General Draxus, Young said, the princess's personal champion. He has been fighting in arena combat for over 50 years. He has never lost. Not once. He has killed over 300 opponents from dozens of species. Warriors twice your size. Creatures with natural armor and claws and poison. She turned to face Tai-ho. And you think you can beat him? I do not think, Tai-ho said. I know I have to try. Yuna stepped forward. Then let me help. She pulled out her datapad. I have been studying Cathari biology since we arrived. They are stronger than us, faster, Their bones are denser and their muscles produce more power. In a straight fight, a Cathari will beat a human every time. This is not making me feel better, Tejo said. Let me finish, Yuna continued. They are stronger, but they are not perfect. Their joints are actually weaker than ours. Too much pressure at the wrong angle and they break. They also have nerve clusters here, here, and here. She pointed to spots on a diagram. Hit these spots hard enough and even a Cathari giant will feel pain. Tejo studied the diagram carefully. What else? Their fighting style, Yuna said. I watched recordings of Draxus in combat. He relies on power, overwhelming force. He rushes his opponents and crushes them before they can think. He has never needed to be clever because he has never faced anyone who could survive his first attack. So I need to survive his first attack, Tejo said. You need to survive a lot of attacks, Yuna replied. And then you need to be smart. Fight like a human, not like a Cathari. Commander Zhang shook her head. This is madness. Maybe, Tejo said, but it is our only chance. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of Tejo's life. He trained every moment he was awake. He studied Cathari fighting techniques and found their weaknesses. He practiced ancient human martial arts, the kind that focused on using an opponent's strength against them. He ran until his legs burned and lifted weights until his arms shook. Yuna helped him build a training program based on Cathari movement patterns. She created a holographic opponent that fought like Draxus, so Tejo could practice dodging and counterattacking. He lost to the hologram hundreds of times, but each time he learned something new. At night, when everyone else was sleeping, Tejo would sit alone in the observation deck. He would look at the stars and think about home, think about his sister. Her name was Kim Soo-yeon. She had been 3 years younger than him, full of life and laughter. When she got sick, the doctors said they could save her. They just needed a certain medicine, a medicine that humans did not have, but other species in the galaxy did. Tejo had tried everything. He had begged and borrowed and even stolen. But by the time he found the medicine, it was too late. Soo-yeon died in his arms, asking him why the universe was so unfair. He had no answer for her. That was why he joined the military. That was why he volunteered for this mission. Not for glory, not for adventure, because he never wanted anyone else to feel what he felt that day. One night, as Tejo was training alone in the ship's gym, the door opened. He turned expecting to see Yuna or Commander Zhang. Instead, he saw Princess Vilari. She wore simple clothes instead of her royal robes. No guards accompanied her. She stood in the doorway watching him with an expression he could not read. How did you get on this ship? Tejo asked. I am a princess, Vilari said. I go where I want. She walked closer, studying him. I came to see the human who accepted my challenge. I expected a fool driven by pride. Instead, I find you here, training in the middle of the night. I do not want to die, Tejo said simply. Everyone dies, Vilari replied, especially against Draxus. Then why did you come? The princess was quiet for a moment. Then she said something unexpected. I have watched recordings of you. The way you move, the way you think. You are different from what I expected humans to be. We are full of surprises, Tejo said. Vilari almost smiled. Perhaps, but surprises will not save you in the arena. Draxus has killed warriors who thought they could outthink him. He will crush you like he crushed them. Then why do you look worried? The question caught her off guard. Her silver eyes widened for just a moment before she controlled her expression. I am not worried, she said coldly. I am curious. There is a difference. She turned and walked toward the door. At the threshold, she paused. Train hard, human. It would be disappointing if you died too quickly. Then she was gone. Tejo stood alone in the gym, thinking about her words. There was something in her voice, something she was trying to hide. He pushed the thought away. He had work to do. In 3 days, he would face the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy, and he planned to win. The day of the official ceremony arrived. Every Cathari noble in the Empire had traveled to the capital to witness the event. The streets were filled with crowds, all pushing toward the grand arena where the announcement would take place. Tejo walked through those streets with his human companions. Ambassador Choi was on his left. Commander Zhang was on his right. Yuna followed close behind, clutching her datapad like a shield. The Cathari citizens watched them pass with mocking smiles. Some pointed and laughed. Children threw small stones, though the adult Cathari did nothing to stop them. "Keep walking," Commander Young said quietly. "Do not react." Teho kept his eyes forward. He had learned long ago that anger was a weapon best used at the right time. This was not that time. The Grand Arena was a massive structure made of black stone and golden metal. It rose from the center of the city like a mountain. Flags bearing the imperial symbol flew from every tower. The sound of drums echoed from within. Inside, over 1,000,000 Cathari had gathered. The seats rose in circles around a sandy floor, climbing so high that the people at the top looked like insects. Giant screens floated in the air, ensuring that everyone could see what happened below. The human delegation was given seats in a small section near the front. The seats were uncomfortable and placed in direct sunlight. Another small insult. Teho did not care. He was studying the arena floor, memorizing its layout. The sand looked deep, which would slow quick movements. There were no obstacles, no places to hide. This was a space designed for direct combat. A horn sounded, and the crowd fell silent. Princess Valari emerged from a tunnel on the far side of the arena. She wore battle armor made of silver and purple, though Teho knew she would not be fighting today. She climbed the steps to the royal platform and sat upon her throne. When she spoke, her voice carried across the entire arena through invisible speakers. "People of the Cathari Empire," she said, "you have heard the news. A human has challenged our greatest warrior. Today we present that human to you, and we present the champion who will destroy him." The crowd cheered with hungry excitement. Valari gestured toward the human section. "Kim Teho, stand." Teho rose to his feet. 1,000,000 pairs of silver eyes turned to look at him. The screens showed his face in massive detail. He looked small. He looked fragile. "This creature," Valari continued, "believes he can defeat a Cathari warrior. He believes humans are more than the insects we know them to be." She paused, letting the crowd laugh. "In 3 days, we shall see if he is right." The laughter grew louder. Someone threw a piece of fruit at the human section. Commander Zhang caught it with one hand, her face showing no emotion. "And now," Valari said, "let us meet the champion who will teach this human the truth about power." Another tunnel opened. The ground shook with heavy footsteps. General Draxus walked into the arena. Teho had seen images and recordings, but nothing had prepared him for seeing the warrior in person. Draxus was enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, with muscles that looked carved from stone. His blue skin was covered in white scars, hundreds of them, each one a mark from a battle he had won. His eyes were yellow instead of silver, and they held no mercy. He wore no armor. He did not need it. Draxus walked to the center of the arena and raised his massive arms. The crowd went insane with cheering. They loved him. He was their hero, their legend, their proof that the Cathari were the greatest species in the galaxy. Then Draxus turned toward the human section. His yellow eyes found Teho immediately. He began walking toward him. The crowd grew quiet, sensing something interesting was about to happen. Draxus stopped at the barrier separating the arena floor from the seats. He was close enough that Teho could smell him, close enough to see the old blood still staining his knuckles. "So," Draxus said, his voice deep as thunder, "you are the human." Teho met his gaze without flinching. "I am." Draxus studied him for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "I have killed many creatures in this arena," Draxus said. "Warriors from species you have never heard of, beings with claws and armor and powers you cannot imagine. None of them survived more than a few minutes." He leaned closer. "You will survive less. I promise you a quick death, human. It is more than you deserve, but I am feeling generous." The crowd cheered at his words. Teho remained calm. He had expected this. He had prepared for this. "I appreciate the offer," he said, "but I have to refuse." Draxus raised an eyebrow. "Refuse?" "You see," Teho continued, "I am not planning to die. I am planning to win. And then I am going to go home and tell everyone about the time I beat the famous General Draxus." He smiled slightly. "I hope you understand." The crowd fell completely silent. No one had ever spoken to Draxus this way. No one had ever dared. Draxus stared at Teho for a long moment. His yellow eyes burned with something between anger and confusion. Then he laughed again, but this time it sounded different, less certain. You have courage, human. I will give you that. It will not save you, but I will remember it when I crush your skull. He turned and walked back to the center of the arena. The crowd resumed their cheering, but something had changed. Some of them were looking at the human with new eyes, not with respect perhaps, but with curiosity. That night, Tejo was in his quarters when someone knocked on the door. He opened it to find Princess Valari standing outside. This time she did not look amused. She looked troubled. You should not have done that, she said. Done what? Tejo asked. Challenged Draxus publicly. Made him look foolish. Valari stepped into the room, looking around at the simple human furniture. He was going to kill you quickly before. Now he will make you suffer. He will break every bone in your body before the end. Why do you care? Tejo asked. Valari opened her mouth to answer, then stopped. She seemed unsure of herself, which Tejo guessed was a rare feeling for her. I do not care, she finally said. I am simply curious. Why are you not afraid? I have seen warriors with decades of experience tremble before Draxus. You have seen him in person now. You know what he can do. And yet you stand there like you are going to a casual meeting. Tejo considered the question. He walked to the window and looked out at the alien city glowing in the night. I am afraid, he admitted. Only a fool would not be afraid. But fear does not help me. It does not make me stronger or faster. It does not protect the people I care about. He turned to face her. Humans learned long ago that fear only makes life smaller. We feel it, but we do not let it control us. Valari stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. You are strange creatures, she said softly. We get that a lot, Tejo replied. The princess stood there for a moment longer. Then without another word, she turned and left. Tejo watched her go. He had seen something in her eyes. Something that looked almost like hope. 3 days. In 3 days, he would either save his people or die trying. Either way, the galaxy would remember his name. The morning of the fight arrived with a blood-red sunrise. Tejo woke early, before anyone else on the ship. He stood in the observation deck and watched the alien sun climb over the horizon. The sky turned from purple to orange to gold. It was beautiful. He wondered if it would be the last sunrise he ever saw. Yuna found him there an hour later. She looked like she had not slept at all. Her eyes were red, and she was holding her datapad so tightly that her knuckles were white. I ran the simulations again, she said. 1,000 times. Different strategies, different approaches. And, Tejo asked. Yuna hesitated. Your best chance of winning is about 12%. That is higher than yesterday, Tejo said with a small smile. Tejo, this is serious. 12% means you will probably die. 12% means I can win. He put his hand on her shoulder. I have faced worse odds before. When? Yuna demanded. Tejo thought about it. Okay, maybe not worse, but close. Despite everything, Yuna almost laughed. Then her eyes filled with tears. You are my best friend, she said. You have been since we were teenagers. I do not want to watch you die. Then watch me win instead. Commander Jiang arrived next, followed by Ambassador Choi. They were dressed in formal clothing, ready to sit in the diplomatic section and witness whatever happened. Jiang's face was hard as stone, but her eyes betrayed her fear. The shuttle is ready, she said. It is time. The journey to the arena was quiet. No one knew what to say. What do you say to a man who might be dead in a few hours? The arena was already full when they arrived. Over 1 million Cathari had packed into the seats. Millions more were watching on screens across the empire. The entire galaxy was paying attention. The human delegation was escorted to their section near the front. Yuna sat down and immediately began typing on her datapad, monitoring systems and checking data. Ambassador Choi sat straight and tall, showing no emotion. Commander Yang stood at the railing, her eyes fixed on the arena floor. Tejo was taken to a preparation room beneath the stands. It was cold and dark, with stone walls and a single lamp. A set of simple clothes waited for him. No armor. The rules said combatants must face each other without protection. He changed slowly, trying to calm his mind. He thought about his sister. He thought about Earth. He thought about all the people counting on him. A guard appeared at the door. It is time, human. Tai-Ho followed him through a long tunnel. The sound of the crowd grew louder with each step. It was a hungry sound, full of anticipation and bloodlust. The tunnel ended at a gate made of golden metal. Beyond it, sunlight blazed on white sand. The gate opened. Tai-Ho walked into the arena. The roar of the crowd hit him like a physical force. A million voices, screaming, laughing, calling for his death. The screens showed his face to everyone, highlighting how small he looked compared to the massive space around him. On the opposite side of the arena, another gate opened. General Draxus stepped out. The cheering doubled. The Cathari stomped their feet and chanted his name. Draxus raised his arms to receive their worship. He looked like a god of war. Then his yellow eyes found Tai-Ho. He smiled. It was the smile of a predator looking at prey. Princess Valari stood on her platform above the arena. She raised her hand, and the crowd fell silent. "Today we witness combat in its purest form," she announced. "General Draxus, champion of the Empire, against Kim Tai-Ho, representative of humanity. The fight continues until one combatant surrenders or dies. There are no other rules." She paused, looking down at Tai-Ho. For just a moment, something flickered in her silver eyes. Concern, perhaps. Or maybe just curiosity. "Begin," she said. Draxus did not hesitate. He charged forward like a landslide, covering the distance between them in seconds. His massive fist swung toward Tai-Ho's head with enough force to shatter stone. Tai-Ho moved. He dove to the side, rolling across the sand, feeling the wind from Draxus's punch pass over him. He came up running, creating distance. The crowd laughed. The human was running already. Draxus turned and charged again, and again, and again. Each time, Tai-Ho barely escaped. Each time, the attacks came closer. Then Draxus caught him. A backhanded blow struck Tai-Ho in the chest and sent him flying across the arena. He crashed into the sand and slid for several meters before stopping. Pain exploded through his body. He was pretty sure at least 2 of his ribs were broken. The crowd cheered with delight. "Get up, human," Draxus called, walking toward him slowly now. "Get up so I can knock you down again. This is more fun than I expected." Tai-Ho coughed blood onto the sand. Every breath hurt. Every movement sent fire through his chest. But he got up. Draxus raised an eyebrow. "You can still stand. Impressive. Most creatures cannot move after one of my strikes. Let us see how many more you can take." The beating continued. Draxus threw Tai-Ho around the arena like a toy. He struck him, kicked him, grabbed him, and slammed him into the ground. Each blow should have been the last. Each blow should have ended the fight. But Tai-Ho kept getting up. In the human section, Yuna was crying openly now. Her datapad showed Tai-Ho's vital signs. His heart rate was dangerously high. His body was covered in internal injuries. By all medical logic, he should be unconscious or dead. "Why does he keep getting up?" she whispered. Commander Jang watched with tears running down her face. "Because he is human," she said. "That is what we do." In the arena, Draxus was no longer smiling. He had hit the human at least 20 times now. He had broken bones and torn muscles. He had caused injuries that would kill most species. And still the human stood. The crowd had stopped laughing. They were watching in confused silence. This was not how the fight was supposed to go. The human should be dead. Why was he not dead? Princess Valari leaned forward on her throne, her silver eyes wide. She had seen Draxus fight many times. She had never seen anything like this. Draxus grabbed Tai-Ho by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "What are you?" he growled. "What kind of creature refuses to die?" Tai-Ho's face was covered in blood. One of his eyes was swollen shut. His arms hung limp at his sides. But he smiled. "I am human," he said. "And I am just getting started." He had been watching Draxus this whole time, studying his movements, learning his patterns, taking punishment so that he could understand his enemy. Now he understood. It was time to fight back. Draxus held Tai-Ho by the throat, his massive fingers squeezing tighter. The human's feet dangled above the sand, kicking weakly. The crowd waited for the final moment. Surely this was the end. "Any last words, insect?" Draxus asked. Tai-Ho stopped struggling. He looked directly into the champion's yellow eyes. Then he struck. His fingers jabbed into the nerve cluster on the inside of Draxus's elbow. It was exactly where Yuna had told him to aim. The effect was immediate. Draxus's arm went numb, and his grip failed. Teho dropped to the sand and rolled away before the giant could recover. The crowd gasped. Draxus stared at his arm in disbelief. He flexed his fingers, but the limb responded slowly, like it was moving through water. "What did you do?" he demanded. Teho stood up slowly. Every part of his body screamed in pain, but he pushed it aside. Pain was just information. It told him what was broken. It did not have to control him. "I learned," Teho said. "While you were hitting me, I was learning. Your attack patterns, your weak points, the way you shift your weight before each strike." He wiped blood from his face. "Humans are good at learning. It is how we survived on our planet. We were not the strongest or the fastest, but we learned, and we adapted." Draxus roared and charged again. But this time, Teho was ready. He moved differently now. Instead of simply dodging, he guided Draxus's attacks past him, using the giant's own momentum against him. When Draxus punched, Teho stepped aside and struck another nerve cluster. When Draxus grabbed, Teho twisted free and attacked a joint. The crowd began to murmur. The human was not running anymore. He was fighting. Draxus's movements became slower as more nerve clusters were damaged. His left arm hung uselessly at his side. His right leg was beginning to drag. He had never experienced anything like this. He had never needed to. "Stand still and fight," Draxus bellowed. "Face me with honor." "Honor is for people who can afford it," Teho replied. "I am fighting to survive. There is no honor in survival, only victory or death." He ducked under a wild swing and delivered a precise kick to Draxus's knee. The joint bent at an unnatural angle. The giant stumbled, falling to one knee. The arena went completely silent. No one had ever knocked General Draxus down, not once in 50 years of combat. Princess Valari rose from her throne, her silver eyes fixed on the scene below. Her heart was pounding in a way she did not understand. She should want Draxus to win. He was her champion, her empire's pride. But watching the human fight, watching him refuse to give up, something inside her had shifted. She found herself hoping he would survive. Draxus pushed himself back to his feet. His face was twisted with rage and something else. Something he had not felt in decades. Fear. "You think this changes anything?" he snarled. "I have been injured before. I have fought through worse. You cannot kill me, human. I am too strong." "Maybe," Teho admitted, "but I do not need to kill you. I just need to beat you." He attacked again, not with powerful strikes, but with precise ones. He targeted the same spots over and over, the nerve clusters, the damaged joints. He was taking Draxus apart piece by piece, like a machine being dismantled. The Ketheri crowd was in chaos. Some were screaming for Draxus to finish the human. Others were watching in horrified fascination. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were supposed to be weak. Humans were supposed to be prey. In the humans section, Yuna had stopped crying. She was staring at her datapad with wide eyes. "His vital signs are stabilizing," she whispered. "How is that possible? He should be dead 10 times over." Commander Yang shook her head in wonder. Adrenaline, human willpower, the refusal to accept defeat. She laughed, a sound mixed with tears. "We are a stubborn species. The universe has been trying to kill us since the beginning, and we are still here." On the arena floor, Draxus finally managed to catch Teho with a desperate grab. He lifted the human and slammed him into the ground with all his remaining strength. The sand exploded around them. Draxus stepped back, breathing heavily. Surely that was the end. Nothing could survive that. Teho did not move. The crowd began to cheer. Finally, the human was dead. The natural order was restored. Then Teho's hand twitched. He rolled onto his side, coughing blood. His vision was blurry. He could not feel his legs. But somewhere deep inside him, a voice was screaming, a voice that sounded like his sister. Get up and fight. You promised to save them. You promised to make sure no one else had to die because humans were too weak." Teho got up. The crowd's cheers died in their throats. They watched in disbelief as the broken human rose to his feet once more. He was barely standing. He was held together by nothing but willpower and rage. But he was standing. Draxus actually stepped backward. For the first time in his long life, he faced something he did not understand. How could any creature endure so much punishment? How could anything keep fighting when every logical part of its body should have given up? "What are you?" Draxus asked, and now there was true fear in his voice. Teho looked at him through blood-filled eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried across the entire arena. "I am human," he said. "We walked out of caves with nothing but rocks and fire. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We clawed our way to the stars through pure determination." He took a step forward, then another. "Every time the universe tried to kill us, we got back up and kept going. That is what we do. That is what we are." He raised his fists. "And I am not finished yet." Princess Vilari sat frozen on her throne. She had lived for 150 years. She had seen wonders and horrors beyond counting. But she had never seen anything like this. She had never seen anyone like him. In that moment, she understood something that would change her forever. Humans were not insects to be crushed. They were something far more dangerous. They were survivors, and they never, ever gave up. Tai-Ho stood in the center of the arena, blood dripping from his face onto the white sand below. Every breath felt like fire in his chest. His left arm hung at an awkward angle, probably dislocated. His vision kept fading in and out. But he could still see Draxus, and Draxus was afraid. The giant champion stood 10 meters away, his body damaged in ways he had never experienced before. His left arm was useless. His right leg could barely support his weight. Dozens of nerve strikes had left parts of his body numb and unresponsive. For the first time in 50 years, General Draxus did not know if he could win. The arena was completely silent. Over 1 million Cathari watched without making a sound. They had come to see a quick execution. Instead, they were witnessing something impossible. A human was matching their greatest warrior. Teho began walking forward. Each step was agony. Each step could be his last. But he did not stop. "Stay back," Draxus growled. But there was no confidence in his voice anymore. Only desperation. Teho kept walking. "I am General Draxus. I am the champion of the Cathari Empire. I have killed hundreds of warriors. You are nothing. Nothing." Teho stopped just a few meters away. He looked up at the giant who towered over him. "I am not nothing," he said quietly. "I am Kim Teho. I am a soldier. I am a brother. I am human." He raised his working arm. "And I am going to beat you." Draxus attacked with all the fury of a dying storm. He swung his good arm in a massive arc, putting every remaining ounce of strength into the blow. If it connected, it would kill any creature in the galaxy. It did not connect. Teho moved inside the swing, stepping close to Draxus's body where the blow could not reach. He had studied this attack. He had taken 20 of them to learn its exact path. He knew where to stand. His fist struck the nerve cluster on Draxus's neck. The giant's body seized, his muscles locked in place. His eyes went wide with shock. Teho did not waste the moment. He grabbed Draxus's good arm and twisted, using a technique humans had developed thousands of years ago. It was designed to use an opponent's weight and momentum against them. It did not require strength. It required knowledge. Draxus, the greatest warrior in the Cathari Empire, flew through the air. He crashed into the sand with an impact that shook the entire arena. For a moment he lay still. Then he tried to rise, pushing himself up on arms that trembled with exhaustion. Teho was already there. He delivered one final strike to the nerve cluster at the base of Draxus's skull. The giant's eyes rolled back. His body went limp. General Draxus lay defeated in the sand. Teho stood over him, barely able to stay upright. His vision was dimming. His body was failing, but he was still standing. The silence lasted for an eternity. Then, somewhere in the crowd, a single Cathari began to clap. Then another. Then 100. Then 1,000. Within seconds, the entire arena was roaring. Not with mockery, not with anger, with something that sounded almost like respect. The screen showed Teho's face to the galaxy, a broken human, covered in blood, standing victorious over the greatest warrior alive. In the human section, Yuna was screaming with joy. Commander Zhang had fallen to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Ambassador Choi simply smiled, a smile of pure relief and pride. On her throne, Princess Vilari sat frozen. Her silver eyes were fixed on the human below. Her heart was beating faster than it ever had before. She had challenged him expecting a joke, a quick death to remind the galaxy of Cathari's superiority. Instead, she had witnessed something that would change everything. Slowly, she rose from her throne. The crowd fell silent as she descended the steps from her platform. Guards moved to escort her, but she waved them away. She walked across the sand, past the unconscious body of her champion, until she stood before Kim Tae-ho. He looked at her with his one working eye. His body was swaying. He could collapse at any moment. "You won," Valari said softly. Tae-ho tried to respond, but no words came out. He had nothing left. He had given everything to this moment. "Medical teams," Valari called out. "Now!" Cathari doctors rushed onto the arena floor. They surrounded Tae-ho, supporting his body as he finally allowed himself to fall. They laid him on a stretcher and began emergency treatment. As they carried him away, Valari walked beside him. She did not know why. She only knew that she could not let him out of her sight. "You are a fool," she said quietly, so only he could hear. "You almost died." Tae-ho's bloody lips curved into a small smile. "Almost," he whispered. "Not quite." Then his eyes closed, and he was unconscious. The arena continued to roar as the human was carried away. The Cathari had come to see an insect crushed. Instead, they had seen something miraculous. They had seen a human refuse to die. News of the fight spread across the galaxy within hours. Every species, every civilization, every corner of known space heard the story. A human had defeated General Draxus. A small, fragile creature from a small, fragile planet had beaten the most feared warrior alive. The implications were enormous. If humans could do this, what else could they do? If they would not give up even when facing certain death, how could anyone ever truly defeat them? In military headquarters across the galaxy, generals rewatched the footage of the fight and revised their opinions of humanity. In political chambers, leaders reconsidered their stance on the small species from Earth. In taverns and homes and schools, people talked about the human who would not fall. Kim Tae-ho had not just won a fight. He had changed the way the galaxy saw his entire species, and he had done it the only way a human knew how, by refusing to quit. Tae-ho woke in a bed softer than anything he had ever felt. The ceiling above him was decorated with golden patterns that shimmered in the light. Machines beeped quietly around him, monitoring his vital signs. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through every part of his body. He groaned and fell back against the pillows. "Do not move, fool." He turned his head to see Princess Valari sitting in a chair beside his bed. She was not wearing her royal armor today. Instead, she wore simple clothes of silver and blue. Without the symbols of her power, she looked younger, more real. "How long?" Tae-ho asked. His voice was rough from days of disuse. 5 days, Valari replied. "Our doctors say you should have died. 7 broken ribs, a punctured lung, internal bleeding in 4 organs, a cracked skull, nerve damage throughout your body." She shook her head. "By every medical standard we have, you should not be alive." "Humans are stubborn," Tae-ho said. "I have noticed." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Valari spoke again, her voice softer than before. "I owe you an apology." Tae-ho raised an eyebrow, which hurt more than it should have. "When your people came to us," Valari continued, "I saw only what I wanted to see. Weak creatures from a dying planet, insects begging for help. I challenged you because I thought it would be amusing. I thought I would teach the galaxy a lesson about Cathari superiority." She looked at her hands. "Instead, you taught me a lesson about what it means to be truly strong." Tae-ho listened without interrupting. "Strength is not just muscle and bone," Valari said. "It is the will to keep fighting when everything says you should stop. It is the courage to face impossible odds because you have something worth fighting for." She looked at him directly. "You have that strength. Your entire species has it. I was blind not to see it before." "We have had a lot of practice," Tae-ho said. "Our history is full of people being told they could not win. They won anyway." Valari almost smiled. Your ambassador Choi told me about your history, your wars and plagues and disasters. She showed me recordings of humans surviving things that would destroy other species. I thought she was exaggerating. Was she? No. If anything, she was understating it. Valari stood and walked to the window. Outside, the golden city stretched to the horizon. The alliance is approved. My mother, the Empress, watched the fight. She has never seen anything like it. She has agreed to give humanity full access to our jump gate technology. Taeho felt a weight lift from his chest. Earth would survive. His people would live. There is something else, Valari said. She turned back to face him. The terms of my challenge? I said that if you won, I would offer myself as a bride. Taeho shook his head. I did not fight for that. I fought for my people, for the alliance. I do not expect you to honor that part of the deal. Valari walked back to his bed and sat down. She was closer now than she had ever been before, close enough that he could see the subtle patterns in her silver eyes. I know, she said. That is why I want to honor it. Taeho blinked. What? Not as a prize, Valari said quickly. Not as something you won, but as a choice. My choice. She took a breath. I have lived 150 years. I have been surrounded by nobles and warriors and diplomats my entire life. None of them ever made me feel the way I felt watching you fight. Terrified? Taeho suggested. Alive, Valari corrected. I felt alive. For the first time in decades, I felt something real. She reached out and touched his hand. Her skin was cool and smooth against his. I am not offering myself because of a bet. I am offering because I want to know you. I want to understand what makes humans like you. Taeho looked at her for a long moment. She was an alien princess from a species that had looked down on his people. A few weeks ago, she had mocked humanity in front of her entire court. But people could change. He believed that. I cannot promise anything, he said. I am just a soldier. I have no wealth, no power, no titles. Good, Valari said. I have enough of those for both of us. For the first time since waking up, Taeho laughed. It hurt, but he did not care. The door opened and Yuna rushed in, followed by Commander Zhang and Ambassador Choi. When Yuna saw that Taeho was awake, she burst into tears and ran to his bedside. You are an idiot, she said, hugging him carefully. A brave, wonderful, terrible idiot. I love you too, Taeho replied. Commander Zhang stood at the foot of the bed, her arms crossed, but her eyes were wet. You did well, soldier, she said. Better than well. You saved all of us. Ambassador Choi bowed her head. The galaxy is already changing because of what you did. Other species are reaching out to humanity. They want to know more about us. They want to understand how we do what we do. What do we do? Taeho asked. We endure, the ambassador said. We adapt. We refuse to accept defeat. That is our gift to the universe. She smiled. And now everyone knows it. The days that followed were busy. Diplomats from across the galaxy arrived to negotiate with Earth. Scientists exchanged knowledge. Soldiers trained together. The Cathari jump gates were open to human ships, allowing travel that would have taken years to happen in hours. Earth would survive the cosmic radiation. Humans would spread across the galaxy. And everywhere they went, they would carry the same spirit that Taeho had shown in the arena. The spirit of survival, the refusal to quit. On his last day on Cathar Prime, Taeho stood on a balcony overlooking the Golden City. Valari stood beside him, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and orange. Will you return? She asked. Yes, Taeho said. I have a promise to keep. Valari looked at him. What promise? To get to know you better, to see if whatever this is between us can grow into something real. He turned to face her. I do not know what the future holds, but I know I want to find out. Valari smiled. It was the most genuine smile he had ever seen on her face. Then I will be waiting, she said, however long it takes. Taeho boarded the human ship that night. As the horizon lifted off and flew toward the stars, he looked back at the alien world one last time. He had come to Kether Prime as a nameless soldier from a dying planet. He was leaving as something more, a symbol of what humans could achieve when they refused to give up. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. And somewhere among the stars, a new story was just beginning.